So in this session, what I want you to do is, whether you're a manager, coach, or a player, is give 5 of my favorite simple tips to allow you to have a injury-free and ultimately fantastic season. So first of all, warming up. Now we know that warming up is important, particularly in the dynamic sports that we play. But what I want us to do is think of the purpose of a warm-up. Remember, a warm-up is to prepare our body for the competition or exercise that we're about to put it through. So during your warm-ups, some of the tips that I would be looking to get across: make our stretching to be dynamic where possible. Slowly build the amount of speed and intensity as we go in, to ultimately culminate with the warm-up finishing at the competition pace that you're going to be starting at. So if we're building up for a football match, slowly build the intensity of the warm-up, slowly build the intensity of the dynamic stretches, but by the end of the warm-up, make sure that we've got to that intensity so we're ready for the competition that we're about to be prepared for. Also, give a chance in a warm-up to make things sport specific. Again, if we pick on football, if you're a striker, during the warm-up, have some shots. If you're looking to organise your defenders, perhaps get them winning some headers. If you're a midfield player, perhaps have lots of touches of the football. We want the warm-ups to be specific to what we're about to do. So make sure that that allows us to be ready for the competition that we're about to be going into. Tip number 2, cool downs. Perhaps the most forgotten thing, but for me, in terms of injury prevention, possibly the most important. So this is the time where, again, what we're looking to do is the opposite to warm-ups. Once we finish competition, what we're looking to do is return the body to its resting state. So it's a great time to do things like static stretching. To start a cool down, I would start with a slow jog. Don't just go from competition to stopping. Do a slow jog where the speed and intensity is decreasing. Then it's a great time, when the muscles are still warm, but perhaps in a short, tight position, to be conducting a good static stretching session. And remember, static stretches should be held for 30 seconds. Now, again, the difference between dynamic and static stretches: dynamic stretches are where we're looking to take the muscle through its contracted state to stretch state quite quickly, and a static stretch is where we're just looking to elongate the muscle fibers and hold those in position for 30 seconds. So don't forget the cool downs. It doesn't have to be too long. It can be if you're a manager or a coach while you're doing a debrief, but this is a great time to get your players to be stretching so that they can return their muscles to the resting state. If we avoid that, if we fail to do that, this can lead to a lack of flexibility and muscles becoming tight over time, and increasing our chances of becoming injured as the season progresses. Tip number 3, make sure we're hydrating correctly. Now, we all know that for sport and competition, hydration plays an important role. But what I want us to do is think about the fundamentals of those hydration and what we should be doing. So in a build up to competition, we want to make sure that we're well hydrated, but we can do this with water. We have enough energy providing substance in our body that we should be able to begin our competition. So what I would say is, it's fine to take on some electrolyte based drinks before competition if we want to, but water will work just as well before competition. Now, as we start competing and exercising, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sweating, and we're going to be losing electrolytes for the body and losing salt. So this is a good time to be putting those electrolytes back into the body. So if we're taking on plenty of water before competition, during competition, that's where we can bring in these electrolyte-based drinks, so things such as Lucozade and things, to be replacing what we've lost. So make sure we're hydrating correctly. And even when sport and competition finishes, hydration doesn't stop there. So if you're a manager, or coach, or a player, make sure you're either advising or taking on much more fluid than you would do typically for the remainder of the day when you've completed in sport and exercise. So tip number 3 is hydrate correctly. Water before, taken on in sips. We don't want to put too much in too quickly. Electrolyte-based drinks throughout the game, and then following the game, make sure that we're hydrating much more than we would do normally to help bring the body back to its resting state. Tip number 4 follows on from that, and that is really to allow for recovery. And we can do this in multiple ways, but we have a long season ahead of us, and the worst thing about injury is sometimes we just don't know when they're coming. So we have to allow suitable time for the body to recover, to be prepared for the next training session or match that waits ahead. So how can we do this? Well, one thing, we can start to allow rest days. So if you have a match or a competition, allow yourself the next day to rest, besides anything that you might consider active rest, like stretching or flexibility work. But rest is good. Rest is where the muscles can adapt. They may feel sore, but this is where they are repairing and ultimately growing back stronger. So make sure you're allowing for those rest days. The other thing that can help with our repair is to be taking in things like protein. So by taking protein into the body, protein helps us to grow and repair damaged muscle tissue. So take that protein in following sport and competition. And this doesn't have to be through complex protein shakes, they work well, but we can be taking on protein supplements in our nutrition. So increasing things like chicken or turkey or eggs or Greek yogurt, things that we know that have a lot of protein in them. Chocolate milk has been said to be a fantastic source of protein following competition as well. So allow for rest days, allow for protein to help for the growth and repair. So that's my first 4 tips to help you have a fantastic season. Finally, tip number 5 is to grab some of our free resources, which develop these points further. So if it's been helpful for you, these first 4 tips, what I would encourage you to do is head over to johnwsportsinjury.co.uk/subscribed. What we have here is some free resources. Firstly, you'll be able to download a copy of this ebook, which is our Physio's Guide for Managers, Coaches, and Parents of Youth Sport. And this goes through lots of some of the things I've been talking about. If you are a manager, of course, you'll also be able to register for our free video course. In that, I give video-based lessons all around warming up, cooling down, first aid on the pitch, growing pains, nutrition, hydration, treating injury on the pitch. And that's all for free over our subscribed page, which is www.johnwsportsinjury.co.uk/subscribe. So that is all available completely free for you. And that is really just me trying to get across lots of the information that I'm asked about in clinic, asked about by sports clubs, because ultimately what I want to be getting you guys to do is having the best season that you can be having ahead of you, injury free. So thank you for joining us today. I hope this content has been helpful, whether you're watching us live or on a replay. Please do feel free to reach out to me, ask any questions that you have, take on board these 5 tips, and here's to a fantastic season.